The pandemic has reminded us just how much we value living in a world where people care for one another, and the importance of feeling connected to the people around us. And it's these connections, these relationships, that are founded in the earliest years of our lives.
The envelope arrived at dawn, and what Catherine read inside made her knees buckle. Palace staff rushed to her side as she collapsed, clutching the DNA results that would destroy everything. For 7 years, she had kissed him goodnight, never knowing the horrifying truth. Prince Louis wasn't who they thought he was. The test results were impossible, unthinkable, yet undeniable. As William read the same words, his face turned white. Their perfect family was built on a lie. What the DNA revealed about Louis's real identity would spark the biggest royal scandal in centuries.
Are the early years of a child for their future endeavours? That's a great question, and such an important question to ask as well. I was amazed as a first-time parent that 90% of our adult brain develops by the age of 5. So there's such a huge opportunity as parents and carers and all those looking after children in those early years.
The story truly began on a warm summer afternoon at a royal garden party. Prince Louis attended the event alongside his mother, Catherine, walking through the palace grounds while holding her hand. The weather was particularly pleasant that day, drawing hundreds of guests to the carefully manicured lawns and gardens. Prince William greeted officials near one of the large tents set up for the occasion, while Catherine smiled warmly at attendees. Their youngest son, meanwhile, looked around with the natural curiosity of a child his age, taking in the crowds and the festive atmosphere. Photographers positioned throughout the venue captured every moment, as they typically do at royal events. Something felt different that day, though nobody could quite articulate what it was at first. Several people in attendance noticed something unusual about Louis. The way the sunlight caught his hair seemed to highlight features that appeared distinct from his older siblings. His facial characteristics, when observed closely, seemed to set him apart from Prince George and Princess Charlotte in ways that went beyond typical sibling differences. These observations remained mostly private during the event itself, with guests exchanging glances but keeping their thoughts to themselves out of respect and propriety. The real shift happened after the event, when photographs from the garden party began circulating online. Social media users started posting their observations within minutes of the images appearing. The initial comments were innocent enough, with people simply asking questions about family resemblances and genetic traits. These posts multiplied quickly across various platforms, with each new comment thread attracting more participants and more detailed analysis. Before long, someone created a side-by-side comparison image showing all 3 Wales children together, and this post changed everything. The comparison revealed what many had been thinking but hesitating to say directly. Prince George displayed strong features reminiscent of his father, combined with his mother's distinctive eyes. Princess Charlotte bore a striking resemblance to Catherine, so much so that many commented she could be her mother's miniature copy. Prince Louis, however, appeared different in ways that people found difficult to explain without sounding accusatory. The post went viral within hours, shared thousands of times as people added their own observations and theories to the growing conversation. Royal Watchers, those dedicated followers who track every detail of the family's public appearances, joined the discussion with more systematic analysis. They began pulling up archived photographs from various events spanning several years. Each image seemed to support the developing narrative that Louis stood apart from his siblings in significant ways. What started as casual observation evolved into serious speculation. The conversations moved from simple questions about genetics to more troubling suggestions about what might explain the differences everyone was noticing. During the garden party itself, Catherine eventually became aware of the unusual attention directed toward her youngest son. She noticed people staring with more intensity than typical curiosity would warrant, their eyes studying Louis with what seemed like analytical scrutiny. Prince William sensed the shift in atmosphere as well, though he continued performing his duties, greeting guests and maintaining the expected royal composure. Both parents instinctively moved closer to Louis without discussing why. They created a protective barrier around him, responding to an unspoken threat they could feel but not yet fully understand. As evening fell, the online theories became increasingly elaborate and specific. Some individuals claimed to possess inside information about the hospital where Louis had been born. Others suggested they had evidence pointing to unusual circumstances surrounding his arrival into the world. Anonymous accounts began posting detailed stories about potential mix-ups or substitutions at the maternity ward. The rumors spread faster than anyone could have anticipated or controlled, taking on a life of their own in the digital sphere. Television entertainment programs picked up the story by that same evening. The comparison photographs appeared during various segments, displayed prominently on screens as hosts discussed the speculations sweeping through social media. The presenters carefully avoided making direct accusations, maintaining the veneer of responsible journalism. However, they encouraged viewers to examine the evidence and draw their own conclusions, effectively amplifying the speculation while maintaining plausible deniability. Throughout all of this, the palace remained completely silent, offering no comment or clarification. This was not the first time a royal family had faced such speculation. Similar situations had occurred in other nations, with royal children becoming subjects of public doubt and genetic questioning. Catherine's parents learned about the reports and immediately contacted their daughter, expressing deep concern about the growing narrative and its potential impact on their grandson. Friends of William also reached out with messages of support, understanding the difficult position the couple found themselves in. Palace staff began monitoring the situation closely, preparing various response strategies while hoping the speculation would die down naturally. The controversy even reached Louis's siblings at school. Officials at the institution, attended by Prince George and Princess Charlotte, began receiving questions from other parents. These adults wanted to know whether the rumors held any truth or represented nothing more than baseless internet gossip. Louis himself remained blissfully unaware of the storm gathering around him. He continued playing with his toys, enjoying time with his brother and sister, living the protected life his parents worked hard to maintain. George and Charlotte heard whispers and saw things online, but William and Catherine shielded them from the worst comments and most hurtful speculation. Despite the chaos erupting in the public sphere, the Wales family maintained their normal routine as much as possible. They continued with scheduled activities, kept regular meal times, and preserved the structure that provided stability for their children. Longtime friends of William and Catherine came forward in those early days, defending the family publicly. They shared personal stories about Louis's early years, describing the clear connection and bond between parents and child. These testimonies, however, did little to slow the spreading theories. People wanted definitive proof rather than emotional statements from biased sources. Within just a few days, medical experts began appearing on television programs to discuss genetic variations within families. They explained in clinical terms how children sometimes look markedly different from their siblings for completely normal, natural reasons. Scientists detailed the complex nature of inherited traits, explaining how features could skip generations or combine in unexpected ways. Despite these logical, science-based explanations, they failed to satisfy what had become a public appetite for drama and scandal rather than rational understanding. The situation had transformed from casual observation at a garden party into a full-blown crisis in less than a week, and the palace communications team found themselves facing a decision that would have lasting implications for the family. The situation took a more serious turn when the first letter arrived at the palace, approximately 1 week after the initial speculation began circulating online. It came in a plain white envelope, unremarkable in every way except for the absence of a return address. Palace mail staff processed hundreds of pieces of correspondence every single day, so this particular envelope might have gone unnoticed, if not for the neat, deliberate handwriting across the front. Inside, they discovered 4 typed pages containing specific details about the day Prince Louis was born. Security personnel examined the contents with their usual thoroughness before passing the letter to senior staff members. The writer claimed to have worked at the private hospital where Catherine had given birth to Louis. They described what they called unusual circumstances during that April evening in 2018, including details that seemed too specific to be fabricated. Most notably, the letter mentioned a brief power outage that had affected the maternity ward during the critical hours when Louis was born. According to the anonymous writer, staff had moved quickly to ensure all mothers and babies remained safe during the incident. But the chaos had created opportunities for confusion. The level of detail provided in the letter suggested genuine inside knowledge, rather than invented stories designed to capitalize on recent speculation. The writer knew which rooms Catherine had occupied and described when medical staff moved her during the emergency. They provided exact times and specific locations within the hospital facility. Someone had clearly been present during those critical hours, or at least had access to detailed information about what had transpired that night. Palace officials found themselves unable to dismiss the letter as easily as they had hoped. 3 days later, a second letter arrived with additional information that made the situation even more troubling. This correspondence described another baby who had been born that same night in an adjacent room. The writer explained how both newborns ended up in the same temporary location during the power outage, with medical staff working by emergency lighting while ensuring both infants received proper care. The confusion of that moment, according to the letter, created possibilities for error that nobody had wanted to acknowledge at the time. The writer stopped short of making direct accusations, but the implications were clear enough. Palace officials gathered to debate whether these letters deserved serious attention or should be dismissed as elaborate hoaxes designed to exploit recent public speculation. Some argued strongly for the latter position, suggesting that someone had fabricated convincing details to add legitimacy to baseless rumors. Others worried that ignoring potentially truthful information could lead to far bigger problems down the line. The letters sat in a secure office while senior advisors discussed their options, with each passing day adding more weight to the decision they needed to make. Prince William learned about the letters during what was supposed to be a routine security briefing. Those present reported that his face remained calm and composed, but his hands gripped the armrests of his chair with noticeable tension. He requested to see the documents himself, despite protocol suggesting that senior staff should handle such matters without direct involvement from family members. When the pages were placed before him, William read each word carefully, multiple times. Everything inside him wanted to dismiss the claims as lies, but something about the specificity and tone of the letters made that difficult. Catherine learned about the correspondence that same evening when William showed her both letters in their private quarters. She read them twice in complete silence, her expression unreadable. Her mind travelled back to that night when Louis arrived, trying to recall every detail with clarity that the passage of time had made difficult. She remembered feeling exhausted and overwhelmed by the birth experience, as most mothers do. The power outage had frightened her briefly before staff members assured her that everything was under control and that all safety systems were functioning properly. She recalled nurses moving quickly through rooms and hallways, their voices calm but urgent as they worked to manage the situation. A third letter arrived the following week, and this one included photographs. The images showed the hospital's maternity ward layout from that specific time period, with certain areas circled in red pen and handwritten notes explaining staff movements during the emergency. The writer had clearly documented their claims with supporting evidence that looked disturbingly legitimate to those reviewing the materials. Palace lawyers examined all 3 letters for any identifying information that might reveal the sender's identity. They found nothing useful. The paper came from common office supply stores available throughout London. The envelopes matched millions sold across the country every year. Even the typing style and font choices gave no clues about who sat behind the keyboard creating these documents. Someone had taken extraordinary care to remain completely anonymous. After seeing all 3 letters and the accompanying photographs, Catherine found herself unable to sleep well. She would lie awake for hours replaying memories of Louis's birth in her mind. Every detail that had once seemed completely normal now carried potential significance. She questioned her own recollections, wondering if exhaustion and pain medication had prevented her from noticing something important during those critical hours. William sometimes found her in the middle of the night, staring at baby photographs of Louis, searching the images for answers they could not provide. The couple requested comprehensive hospital records from that evening, hoping official documentation would clarify the situation. Staff members pulled files showing admissions, room assignments, and precise timing of all births that occurred during the relevant hours. The records confirmed that 2 babies had indeed been born within an hour of each other, just as the anonymous letters claimed. The power outage, according to maintenance logs, had lasted exactly 17 minutes. Both mothers and their infants had received excellent care throughout the incident, with no complications or concerns noted in any official documentation. Nothing in the records suggested any problems whatsoever. A 4th letter arrived containing even more disturbing details. The writer described specific staff members who had worked that night without naming them directly. maintaining their pattern of providing just enough detail to seem credible while avoiding anything that could be easily verified or disproven. They claimed to have overheard conversations in hallways that had raised concerns in their mind, but admitted never formally reporting these concerns to supervisors or hospital administration. The anonymous source explained that their silence over the years stemmed from fear about potential consequences for their career. However, the recent speculations swirling around Prince Louis had finally pushed them to reveal what they knew or claimed to know. Palace investigators attempted to trace where the letters had been posted, hoping postal marks might provide some clue about the sender's location or identity. The stamps came from different postal codes scattered across London, showing that someone was deliberately moving around the city to mail each envelope from various locations. This level of planning and caution suggested serious intent rather than casual mischief or a simple hoax. Every letter carried significant risks for the family and especially for Louis, a young boy who deserved protection from adult problems he could not possibly understand. Catherine talked with her mother about the increasingly complicated situation during a private phone call. She needed perspective from someone outside the palace system, someone she could trust completely. Her mother listened carefully to everything Catherine shared before offering simple but powerful advice about trusting maternal instinct. Catherine had carried Louis for 9 months, felt every movement, experienced every moment of his development, and knew him from his very first breath. No anonymous letter could change or diminish that profound bond between mother and child. Yet ignoring the letters felt increasingly impossible as they continued to arrive. A 5th and final letter came with a promise that it would be the last communication from this anonymous source. The writer urged the palace to conduct DNA testing for everyone's peace of mind, claiming no malicious intent behind their correspondence. They insisted they were motivated by concern for truth and justice rather than any desire to harm the family. The letter ended with an apology for causing distress, but maintained that the matter required proper resolution through scientific testing that would settle all questions definitively. Meanwhile, another family was experiencing their own crisis. A young woman sat in her modest living room watching the evening news coverage about Prince Louis. Her husband walked through carrying their 7-year-old son, Thomas, fresh from his bath and wearing pajamas covered in cartoon characters. The woman glanced at her son and then back at the television screen, showing images of the young prince. Something caught her attention in a way it never had before, a resemblance she could not unsee once she noticed it. She asked her husband to wait before taking Thomas to bed, unable to explain why but feeling compelled to look more carefully. As the news segment continued showing different angles and ages of Prince Louis, she studied the features with growing concern. Her heart began beating faster as she noticed similarities she had never previously considered. She picked up her phone and searched for more images of the prince, and dozens of photographs appeared, showing the boy at various events and ages. When she held the phone next to her son's face, her hands started shaking. Thomas had always been different from both parents in ways they had noticed but never seriously questioned. His hair color matched neither her dark brown nor her husband's light blonde. His eyes carried a shade of blue that nobody in either extended family possessed. His facial structure seemed refined in ways that did not match their working-class features and background. They had always explained these differences as random genetic variations, the kind of thing that happens in families without any special significance. The young woman showed her husband the comparison on her phone. He laughed at first, assuming she was joking, but his smile faded quickly when he saw her serious expression and the genuine concern in her eyes. He took the phone and studied the images more carefully, looking back and forth between the screen and their son standing between them. The similarities became undeniable once someone pointed them out directly. Thomas had been born at a private hospital in London on the exact same date as Prince Louis. His mother remembered complications during delivery and being moved between rooms several times that night. She specifically remembered a power outage that had caused temporary chaos in the maternity ward. The emergency meeting convened at 7 o'clock in the morning behind closed doors in one of the palace's most private conference rooms. Senior advisors arrived with serious expressions, understanding that the situation had reached a critical point requiring immediate decisions. Prince William and Catherine sat at the head of the long table, both looking exhausted from multiple sleepless nights. The anonymous letters and the relentless public speculation had created a crisis that could no longer be managed through silence or careful media statements. Something definitive needed to happen, and everyone in that room understood the gravity of what they were about to discuss. The palace's chief communications advisor opened the conversation by arguing strongly for maintaining complete silence on the matter. He believed that engaging with baseless speculation would only legitimize conspiracy theories that would otherwise fade away naturally. Royal families throughout history had weathered far worse storms by maintaining dignified silence and refusing to acknowledge unfounded rumors. The public's attention span was notoriously short, he argued, and people would inevitably move on to new topics and fresh scandals within a matter of weeks. Past experience suggested that the best course of action was to simply wait out the current storm. However, others around the table disagreed with this assessment. The private secretary pointed out that this situation had moved beyond typical tabloid gossip into territory that required more careful handling. The anonymous letters contained specific details that could not be easily dismissed, and another family had now come forward with their own concerns about a potential hospital mix-up. The convergence of these factors created a unique situation that traditional approaches might not adequately address. Simply ignoring everything and hoping it would disappear seemed increasingly unwise. Catherine spoke quietly but firmly about her concerns for Louis's future. She explained that her son would eventually grow older and learn about these rumors through internet searches or comments from peers. She wanted him to know that his parents had pursued truth rather than hiding from difficult questions when those questions arose. Children deserved honesty from their parents, even when that honesty required confronting painful possibilities. The uncertainty hanging over their family felt unbearable, and she believed definitive answers would serve everyone better than years of lingering doubt and speculation. William supported his wife's position despite his own considerable fears about what testing might reveal. He explained to the assembled advisors that DNA testing would provide one of two outcomes. Either it would confirm Louis as their biological son, putting all speculation to rest permanently, or it would reveal an unthinkable mistake that had occurred 7 years earlier. Both outcomes carried significant implications, but either one was preferable to the current state of uncertainty. The family needed to know the truth in order to move forward with their lives, regardless of what that truth turned out to be. The private secretary raised practical concerns about how testing procedures would be conducted and managed. Any laboratory work would require absolute secrecy to prevent leaks to the media before results were available. The results themselves would need verification from multiple independent sources to satisfy public scrutiny and prevent accusations of manipulation or cover-up. The entire process would take considerable time and require careful coordination with medical professionals who could be trusted with such sensitive information. There could be no mistakes or shortcuts in how they approached this investigation. Catherine asked specifically about the other family who had contacted the hospital with their own concerns. She wanted to know everything about them and their situation, feeling a strange connection to people she had never met, but who were experiencing similar doubts and fears. Staff provided basic information about the working-class family and their son Thomas, who had been born this same night as Louis at the same hospital. His parents had noticed striking similarities after seeing recent news coverage and photographs. The room fell into heavy silence as everyone processed the implications of two separate families, questioning their children's identities based on the same evening's events. The probability of such a coincidence seemed impossibly small. Something significant had happened that night, something that nobody had wanted to acknowledge or investigate at the time. William requested copies of all hospital records from the night of Louis's birth, stating that he wanted to review every detail personally before making any final decisions. Staff members promised to obtain complete documentation, including maintenance reports about the power outage and any incident reports filed by hospital personnel. Every piece of information, no matter how seemingly insignificant, might prove relevant during the investigation. The royal physician joined the meeting to discuss proper testing protocols and procedures. He explained in clear terms how DNA analysis worked and what results would definitively prove regarding biological relationships. Samples would need to be collected from William, Catherine, and Louis under secure and controlled conditions. Independent laboratories would then analyze the genetic material, comparing specific markers between family members to establish parentage with scientific certainty. The process was well established and reliable, leaving no room for ambiguity in the results. Catherine asked the question everyone was thinking about, but nobody wanted to voice. How long would they need to wait for results? The physician estimated between 1 and 2 weeks, depending on laboratory schedules and the complexity of the analysis required. Every single day of that waiting period would feel endless for the parents, but rushing the process could compromise accuracy. The family needed to prepare themselves mentally for an extended period of uncertainty and anxiety while scientific analysis proceeded at its own necessary pace. The communications advisor returned to the question of public perception and media management during the testing period. The palace faced a choice between two basic approaches. They could either announce their actions publicly, explaining that testing was being conducted to address speculation, or they could conduct everything in complete secrecy and only reveal results once they became available. A public announcement would likely stop some speculation, but would also intensify media attention on the family. Secret testing carried the risk of appearing deceptive if discovered later, potentially making the situation worse rather than better. William made the decision after considering both options carefully. He believed transparency would serve everyone better than secrecy in this particular situation. He wanted a brief official statement released, explaining the family's decision to pursue DNA testing. The announcement would acknowledge recent speculation without giving it more weight than necessary, and would confirm the family's commitment to truth and transparency. Most importantly, the results would be shared publicly once they became available, leaving no room for continued conspiracy theories or accusations of cover-up. Palace lawyers discussed potential legal implications of various outcomes that might emerge from testing. If results confirmed Lewis as William and Catherine's biological son, the family would have grounds to pursue legal action against those who had spread demonstrably false claims. If results revealed an actual hospital mistake had occurred, the situation would become vastly more complex. Questions about custody, identity, legal status, and royal succession would all require careful consideration and resolution. The lawyers needed to prepare for multiple scenarios simultaneously. Catherine felt tears building behind her eyes, but refused to let them fall during the formal meeting. She thought about Louis playing with his siblings at that exact moment, completely unaware that adults were gathered in a conference room discussing his identity and future. The innocence of childhood felt precious and fragile. All she wanted was to protect her son from this nightmare, but she knew that protection was no longer fully within her power to provide. The truth, whatever it turned out to be, would affect him regardless of her wishes. The private secretary began organizing logistics for the testing process with characteristic efficiency. Every step required meticulous planning to maintain confidentiality while ensuring proper procedures were followed. William asked what they should tell Louis about the medical procedures he would undergo. The physician suggested treating it as routine health screening that all family members underwent regularly as part of their medical care. The boy was far too young to understand complex explanations about DNA, identity, and the speculations swirling around him. Simple, honest answers would suffice until they knew more about the actual situation. The meeting concluded with clear assignments distributed to everyone present. Staff members would obtain complete hospital records and arrange for independent laboratory testing through trusted facilities. The private secretary would contact approved laboratories and arrange for secure sample collection at the palace. William and Catherine would focus their energy on maintaining normal family routines while waiting for results, providing stability for their children during an uncertain time. Everyone understood that the next 2 weeks would test them all in ways they had never experienced before. Catherine stood from her chair and walked slowly to the window overlooking the palace gardens. Through the glass, she could see Louis playing outside with his security detail nearby. The boy laughed at something his guard said and ran across the grass with the pure joy that only children possess. Her heart ached with love and fear in equal measure as she watched him. She whispered a quiet prayer that testing would confirm what she desperately wanted to believe, what her heart told her must be true despite the seeds of doubt that had been planted. William joined his wife at the window and took her hand in his, their fingers intertwining naturally. Together they watched their son play, neither speaking, but both thinking about the same fears and possibilities. They were preparing themselves for whatever truth awaited them, knowing that their lives might change dramatically in the coming weeks, but hoping desperately that they would not. The call came through on a Thursday morning at exactly 9:15. Prince William answered his private line and heard the familiar voice of the royal physician on the other end. Catherine stood across the room, watching her husband's face intently, searching for any indication of what news was being delivered. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. The conversation lasted less than 3 minutes, which felt both impossibly long and remarkably brief. William thanked the physician quietly and ended the call, setting down the phone with careful deliberation. Catherine could not read her husband's expression as he turned toward her. His face seemed frozen in an unreadable mask. She felt dizzy and realized she had been holding her breath without meaning to. William walked toward her slowly, each step measured and deliberate, and took both her hands in his. He spoke 3 simple words that changed everything. In an instant, Louis was theirs. The DNA results had confirmed without any doubt whatsoever that Prince Louis was the biological son of William and Catherine. All the testing from multiple independent laboratories had reached the same definitive conclusion. Catherine collapsed into William's arms, sobbing with a relief so powerful it felt physical. All the fear and uncertainty that had built up over the past 2 weeks released in overwhelming waves of emotion. William held her tightly while processing his own complicated feelings. Their son was truly their son. The nightmare that had consumed their lives was finally over. They stood together in their private sitting room for several long minutes, holding each other and allowing themselves to feel the full weight of what they had just learned. The couple went immediately to find Louis after composing themselves enough to face their children. He was playing in the garden with George and Charlotte, all 3 children engaged in some elaborate game that made sense only to them. Catherine swept Louis into her arms without warning and covered his face with kisses. The boy giggled at his mother's unusual display of affection, clearly delighted but slightly confused by the intensity. William joined the embrace, wrapping his arms around his entire family and holding them close. For the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe properly again. The palace communications team received notification within the hour. They began immediately preparing an official statement for public release, understanding that every word would be scrutinized and analyzed by media outlets around the world. The statement needed to be clear and definitive while also protecting the family's privacy and dignity. It needed to address the speculation directly without giving conspiracy theories more attention than they deserved. The drafting process involved multiple rounds of careful editing and approval. The palace scheduled the press release for 2 o'clock that afternoon, giving staff time to finalize the wording and prepare for the inevitable media response. William and Catherine reviewed the draft statement together in their private office. The document confirmed that comprehensive DNA testing had been conducted through multiple independent laboratories at the family's request. All results had conclusively proven that Prince Louis was the biological child of the Prince and Princess of Wales. There could be no doubt and no room for continued speculation. The statement continued by explaining that this action had been taken to address recent speculation and provide definitive answers to questions that had emerged in public discourse. The family had chosen transparency over silence because they believed truth served everyone better than uncertainty. William and Catherine wanted to focus moving forward on their children and normal family life. They thanked everyone who had shown support during what had been an extraordinarily difficult time. The tone remained dignified and measured throughout, expressing neither anger nor blame toward those who had participated in the speculation. Catherine had insisted on adding a specific paragraph about protecting children from harmful speculation. She wanted people to understand how rumors and conspiracy theories affected young lives in real and damaging ways. The statement emphasized that Louis and all royal children deserved respect and privacy regardless of their public positions. Their identities should never become subjects of baseless theories or internet entertainment. This addition reflected Catherine's deep feelings about how the situation had unfolded and her hopes that it might prevent similar situations in the future. The finalized document was transmitted to major news organizations at the scheduled time. Within minutes, breaking news alerts began appearing on phones and computers around the world. Headlines announced the DNA results and the confirmation of Louis's identity. Social media platforms exploded with reactions ranging from relief to embarrassment. Many people expressed genuine happiness for the family and admitted they had been worried about the outcome. Others acknowledged they had believed the speculation and now felt foolish for doubting the family without concrete evidence. William and Catherine watched news coverage together from their private sitting room, seeing their statement read aloud by news anchors and analysed by royal experts and commentators. Most coverage praised the family's decision to pursue testing and their transparency in handling such a sensitive matter. The couple felt vindicated in their choice to address the rumours directly rather than maintaining silence. They had endured 2 weeks of private agony, but the definitive results now provided closure that silence never could have achieved. The other family that had come forward with concerns about their own son learned about the results through the same public announcement. They experienced a complicated mixture of relief and disappointment. Part of them had become convinced that their son Thomas might actually be the lost prince, and learning otherwise forced them to confront questions about their own situation without clear answers. The palace statement said nothing about other families or ongoing investigations, leaving them in an uncertain position. Catherine thought about this other family throughout the afternoon. She wondered whether they felt abandoned by the announcement and its focus solely on Louis. Their concerns had been valid and genuine, deserving of acknowledgement and respect. She asked William about the possibility of reaching out to them privately to express understanding and support. He agreed they deserved some recognition for coming forward with honest questions rather than spreading anonymous rumours. Palace lawyers contacted the family that same evening with a carefully worded message. They assured the couple that a separate investigation into their son's background would continue privately, independent of the announcement about Prince Louis. The palace took their concerns seriously regardless of what Louis's test results had shown. If a hospital error had occurred involving another family, the truth still needed to be discovered and addressed properly. This private communication provided some comfort to parents who had been questioning everything they thought they knew about their own child.